December 28th, 2023, just after 7 in the evening, Dover, Massachusetts, one of the wealthiest towns in one of the wealthiest states in America. Tree-lined streets, large properties, the kind of quiet, polished neighborhood where nothing bad ever happens, where the lawns are perfect and the houses are enormous and the families inside them seem to have everything anyone could ever want. A man pulls up to a house on Wilson's Way. He is a relative of the family inside. He has not heard from them in a day or two. Something feels off. He calls. No answer. He knocks. No answer. He has a way in. He enters. And what he finds inside that house, inside that massive 21-room, $4 million mansion decorated for Christmas, will haunt everyone who hears about it for the rest of their lives. He calls 911. Police arrive at 7:24 in the evening. They walk through the front door, and immediately they see something that stops them cold. A typed note on a piece of paper, sitting in the foyer, addressed to no one in particular, but clearly written for whoever was going to walk through that door. It reads, "Please note, before entering, call the police to first check 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor. Each room will be marked by a white sheet of paper. Police move up the stairs." They find the white sheets of paper, 3 of them, on 3 different bedroom doors. Behind the first door, Tina Kamal, 54 years old, shot dead in her bed. Behind the second door, Ariana Kamal, 18 years old, a college freshman, shot dead in her bed. And in the master bathroom, in the bathtub, Rakesh Kamal, known to everyone as Rick, 57 years old, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, an unregistered Glock pistol nearby. He had killed his wife and daughter while they slept, then walked to the bathtub and shot himself. Christmas lights were still on outside. And just like that, in one of the richest, safest, most picture-perfect neighborhoods in Massachusetts, an entire family was gone. Now, to understand what happened inside that mansion, you have to understand what the Kamal family looked like from the outside, because the outside and the inside were 2 completely different worlds. Rick and Tina Kamal were, by every visible measure, a success story. Rick was 57 years old. He had graduated from Boston College in 1987 and later studied at MIT Sloan School of Management and Stanford University. He had built a career in technology and education consulting. He had held executive-level positions at multiple companies. He had worked at Fidelity Investments, one of the most prestigious financial firms in America. He was smart. He was polished. He knew how to work a room and make people believe in him. Tina was equally accomplished. She had studied at Harvard. She had a career spanning more than 3 decades in education and technology. She served on the board of the American Red Cross of Massachusetts. At the prestigious Milton Academy, one of the most elite private schools in New England, she was the president of the Upper School Parents Association. She was the kind of woman other parents looked up to. Organized, caring, deeply involved in her community. Together, they had built what looked like a dream. They had met at Fidelity Investments. They were married through an arranged marriage in the Indian tradition. They had one daughter, Ariana, who had grown up in their world of private schools and social connections and big ambitions. In 2023, Ariana graduated from Milton Academy, the kind of school that sends students to the Ivy League, and enrolled at Middlebury College in Vermont. A brilliant student, her professors would later say. Passionate, a beautiful writer, a member of the college choir, a young woman who was, in every sense, just beginning. In February 2019, the Kamals purchased their home at 8 Wilson's Way in Dover, a mansion, 19,000 square feet, 11 bedrooms, 14 bathrooms, a spa, a movie theater, a pool, 5 acres of land in one of the most exclusive zip codes in Massachusetts. To the outside world they had arrived. To the inside world they were already drowning. The $4 million home was purchased with a $3.8 million mortgage taken directly from Wilsondale Associates, the company that had built and developed the property. That mortgage was not a typical bank loan with a long repayment schedule. It was due in full in 2 years. 2 years. By February 2021, the moment that deadline arrived, the Kamals could not pay it. They began trying to restructure the loan. Wilsondale Associates worked with them, extending terms. But the debt kept growing. They still owed $3.61 million in principal, plus more than $300,000 in unpaid interest and fines. And Rick Kamal began lying, not to Wilsondale, not to the courts, to his own family. According to Tina's brother, Sandeep Bedi, Tina had absolutely no idea what was happening to their finances. None. Zero. She thought they were rolling in money. Those were his exact words. She thought they were rolling in money. While the mortgage ballooned and the debt piled up, Rick kept the entire financial reality hidden from his wife and daughter. He told Tina he was working on deals. He was optimistic. Things were coming together. Meanwhile, behind her back, he was making phone call after phone call to Wilsondale Associates, begging for more time, making promises he could not keep. The developer of the home, a woman named Mary Beth Bisson, later told investigators that Rick would routinely ask her not to include Tina in discussions about the finances, that he gave wild, implausible excuses for missed payments. One time he told her he was in India and his father-in-law had had a heart attack and died. Investigators later confirmed that was entirely false. Tina's father was alive and well. The lies kept coming, and the debt kept growing. It was not just the mortgage. Rick had borrowed enormous sums from multiple sources, all while keeping Tina and Ariana in the dark. He borrowed money from Tina's brother, Sandeep Bedi, approximately $500,000. Bedi would later file an affidavit in court detailing these loans. He borrowed from his own brother, Manoj Kamal, over $150,000, given in small increments of roughly $5,000 at a time over 9 months. Manoj later told investigators that he had been giving his brother this money steadily, believing Rick was going through a rough patch that would soon improve. He used the home of his elderly widowed mother, Usha Kamal, as collateral on a business loan of $550,000, a loan that was never repaid. He filed for bankruptcy, but in Tina's name, not his own. In September 2022, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy was filed listing Tina Kamal as the debtor, with liabilities between $1 million and $10 million. Tina's family believes she was not fully aware of the extent of what was filed in her name. The case was dismissed 2 months later because the required documentation was never submitted. He was also negotiating to buy another house, a $16.5 million waterfront estate on Chickamauga Lake in Tennessee. He had been in contact with the listing agent since October 2022. The family had even toured the property. He was describing this new house to Tina as their next chapter, their upgrade, while simultaneously failing to pay the mortgage on the house they were already losing. Tina had begun buying furniture for a second home she believed they were about to purchase. She had no idea that the home she was already living in was being taken away. By late 2022, the situation had crossed a point of no return. Wilsondale Associates received court approval to evict the Kamals from 8 Wilson's Way in December 2022. Eviction proceedings were formally served in May 2023. By December 2023, a year later, the housing court had issued a final enforcement order. The Kamals were to be removed from their home. The deadline was December 28, 2023. The same day their bodies were found. In the months leading up to that date, Rick Kamal was in constant contact with Stephen Bisson, the developer, negotiating, begging, promising. Even as the legal walls closed in around him, he was still talking about maybe buying the property back one day. He told Bisson that by the start of the new year, he would know better whether a repurchase was an option. He was emailing about buying the house back, while already planning what he was going to do to his family inside it. A real estate agent who had been involved in the property described the situation bluntly. The Kamal family, he said, was essentially squatting in the home. He also revealed something else, that when Tina was head of the Homeowners Association for their exclusive subdevelopment, she had been collecting monthly fees from neighbors for services like landscaping and snow removal. But those services were never actually paid for. The Kamals had been keeping the money. Whether Tina knew about that or not is unclear. What is clear is that the family was presenting one face to the world: successful, wealthy, accomplished, connected, while quietly taking money from people who trusted them, borrowing from family members who believed in them, and hiding a financial catastrophe that had been years in the making. As December 2023 arrived, Rick Kamal's plan was already in motion. He visited his brother Manoj on December 23rd, 5 days before the killings. It would be the last time Manoj saw him alive. During that visit, Rick gave Manoj information about a life insurance policy, a beneficiary update. Manoj thought it was unusual, but Rick was calm, reassuring, the way he always was. What Rick did not tell him is what that insurance information actually meant. Tina had a life insurance policy worth $1.25 million, held by a company called Genworth. For the 3 decades of their marriage, Rick had been the primary beneficiary. Ariana was the contingent, meaning if Rick died first, Ariana would inherit. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, a fax was sent to Genworth requesting a change to the policy. The change made Rick and Ariana co-primary beneficiaries, splitting the payout. And it added Manoj Kamal as the new contingent beneficiary, meaning if both Rick and Ariana died, Manoj would collect the $1 million. 4 days after that fax was sent, all 3 members of the Kamal family were dead. Whether Tina actually signed that fax or whether her signature was forged is one of the central questions in the legal battle that followed. On Christmas Day, the family FaceTimed with relatives in India. By all accounts, the call seemed normal. Tina and Ariana were there, smiling. Nobody who saw that call had any idea that Rick had already set the wheels in motion. On December 26th, 2 days before the killings, Rick texted his brother Manoj to cancel a planned get-together. He said Tina and Ariana had been hospitalized after an allergic reaction to eating shrimp, a health scare. Nothing serious, he said. They would be fine soon. He sent a similar text to Ariana's college boyfriend, Owen, who had been planning to drive to Dover to visit the family over the holidays. Rick asked Owen to delay his trip. He said Ariana had left her phone at home and couldn't text him herself. He wrote, "Sorry she hasn't been able to directly communicate with you. Hopefully she will be much better very soon." Owen told police later that the Kamals had seemed like incredible people, that Ariana loved her dad, that as far as he could tell, everything had been fine. He drove home instead. While texting these lies to his brother and his daughter's boyfriend, Rick was simultaneously emailing Stephen Bisson about the impending eviction. He agreed to leave the house keys on the kitchen table for the property transfer. He kept mentioning the possibility of a buyback. He kept projecting a future he had already decided would not exist. And then the text stopped. The emails stopped. All communication gone. When investigators searched the pond in the backyard of the mansion after the killings, they found a collection of electronics at the bottom of the water. Cell phones, laptops, an iPad, a surveillance DVR box from the home security system. Rick had thrown them all in the pond. He did not want anyone seeing what was on those devices. Whatever was recorded, whatever was stored, whatever could be traced, he had tried to erase it. At some point in the days between December 26th and December 28th, Rick Kamal shot his wife and daughter as they slept in their beds. He walked into Tina's room. He shot her. He walked into Ariana's room. He shot her. And then he walked to the master bathroom, climbed into the bathtub, and shot himself. He was 57 years old. His wife was 54. His daughter was 18. She had been in her first semester of college. She had her entire life ahead of her. Before he died, he typed that note, placed it in the foyer, addressed to the person who was coming to collect the house keys. He told him to call the police first. He marked each bedroom with a white sheet of paper. He had planned this with the same meticulous attention to detail that he had apparently applied to everything else in his life. The image, the presentation, the careful management of what other people saw and what they didn't. Even in death, he was controlling the scene. When the news broke, the community around the Kamal family was stunned. Dover is a town of fewer than 6,000 people. It had not seen a homicide in 3 years. The district attorney, Michael Morrissey, said he had never worked a homicide case from that neighborhood in his 12 years in the position. Neighbors who knew Rick described him as a dedicated father, warm, personable, the kind of man who talked to you at community events and made you feel like he was genuinely interested in your life. The staff at Milton Academy, where Ariana had graduated just months earlier, were devastated. They described Ariana as a sweet, smart, kind young woman who was just beginning to realize her full potential. Her mother, Tina, was remembered as a committed and caring advocate for both parents and students. At Middlebury College, where Ariana had just started her first semester, the grief was immediate and raw. Her choir director spoke of how beloved she was. A professor called her a brilliant student, engaged, passionate, a beautiful rider, a young woman who had arrived at college full of potential and curiosity and had barely begun. And then, as the initial grief gave way to investigation, the full picture of what Rick had been hiding began to emerge. And with it came a second wave of shock, because the people who knew Tina and Ariana were learning, for the first time, the truth about their lives. The house they lived in was already foreclosed. The money they believed they had didn't exist. The stability they thought surrounded them was a performance, a very long, very convincing, very carefully maintained performance. Tina's brother, Sandeep Bedi, said his sister had no clue, that she had believed they were wealthy, that she had been shopping for furniture for a second home they were supposedly about to buy. She died not knowing the truth. And Ariana, 18 years old, just starting her life, died in her bed, in the dark, not knowing why. After the deaths, the battle over Tina's life insurance policy began almost immediately. Manoj Kamal, Rick's brother, who had lent Rick over $150,000 and whose name had been added to the policy just 4 days before the killings, filed a claim to collect the $1.25 million payout. Tina's brother, Sandeep Bedi, who was administering Tina's estate, moved to block the claim. He contacted the insurance company and raised the alarm about the circumstances, the timing of the beneficiary change, the deaths, the history of deception. The insurance company, Genworth, decided it could not resolve this dispute on its own. In April 2024, they asked a federal court in Boston to decide who should receive the money. On one side, Manoj Kamal, who argues he is the named beneficiary according to official documentation that was changed before the deaths. He also pointed out that Rick had borrowed substantial sums from him, money that was never repaid. On the other side, Tina's family, who argue that Tina's signature on the beneficiary change form may have been forged, that the timing of the change 4 days before the killings is not a coincidence, that a man who had already decided to kill his family also decided before doing so to route the insurance money away from his wife's family and toward his own. This legal battle is still unresolved. The question of who gets that money is still moving through the courts, and embedded in that legal question is a deeper, darker one. Did Rick change that policy knowing exactly what he was about to do? Was the insurance money part of the plan? There is no definitive answer. Rick is dead. He left no explanation, no confession, no letter to his family, only a typed note for the man coming to collect the keys. Here's what we are left with. A man who spent years constructing a lie. Not just a small lie, a complete parallel reality. A fiction so elaborate, so sustained, so carefully maintained that the two people closest to him, his wife and his daughter, lived inside it until the moment they died. Tina believed she was wealthy. She believed they were thriving. She believed the mansion was theirs, that the second home in Tennessee was coming, that her family's future was secure. Ariana believed her father was a successful entrepreneur, a dedicated dad, a man who loved his family. And by most accounts, he did love them, in whatever broken way he was capable of. Owen, her boyfriend, said Ariana loved her dad, but Rick Kamal loved something else more. He loved the image, the status, the appearance of success. He built an entire life around projecting wealth and accomplishment and respectability, and when the gap between that image and reality became impossible to close, he chose to destroy everything rather than face the consequences of the truth. He did not sit his wife down and tell her the truth. He did not call his family together and explain that they were losing the house, that they needed to start over, that the dream was not what they thought it was. He shot them in their sleep. He shot an 18-year-old girl who was home from her first semester of college. And then he left a typed note for the people coming to take the house. The questions that have no answers are the ones that will stay with you longest. Did he ever consider another way out? Did he ever think about what it would mean for Tina and Ariana to simply leave the mansion, to downsize, to start over with the truth? Did he understand what he was taking from the world when he took those two lives? Or was the image of what they were, a successful family in the 21-room mansion, so inseparable from his sense of self that he could not imagine any version of life that looked different? We will never know. Tina Kamal deserved to know the truth. She deserved the chance to make her own choices about her own life. She deserved the chance to be angry, to grieve, to rebuild, to decide for herself what came next. Ariana Kamal deserved everything. She was 18 years old. She was brilliant, her professors said. She was kind, her school said. She was loved by the people around her. She had a boyfriend who drove toward her on the highway until her father texted him to turn around. She had a choir she sang in, a major she was figuring out, a life that was just beginning. She deserved all of it, and she was killed in her bed, at home for the holidays, 3 days after Christmas, by the person who was supposed to protect her. That is the Kamal family case, not a mystery, not unsolved. The perpetrator is known. The facts are documented in a 63-page police report. The details are cold and clear and devastating. But some cases leave you not looking for answers because the answers are already there. Some cases leave you sitting with something much harder than a mystery. They leave you sitting with grief. What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy true crime stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more real cases. See you in the next one.